All right, Susan Michelle, Myrna Skoller, this mic is all yours.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Susan Michel in Western Massachusetts with my good friend Myrna Skoller in Florida. How are you, Myrna? You look so incredibly beautiful today. You always look beautiful, but today you look
You.
extra incredible beautiful.
Well, you're looking in a mirror because that's what I see in you.
Thank you. So
Anyway,
I am the author of Surrender to Joy from Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we're all here to study, to learn, to embody. The truth of. Myrna Skoller is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, based on A Course in Miracles, that I love, love, love. And I think that our understanding of A Course in Miracles is pretty deep. We've both been studying it for, I think, almost 34 years now. How time flies. Speaking for myself, when I can embody the knowledge that I know to be true, I feel peaceful, I feel passionate, I feel alive. However, during the day, I continue to vacillate. I go from ego to Holy Spirit to ego to Holy Spirit. Um, but again, my time here in Paltalk Zoom is priceless because we always remind each other of the truth of the Course in Miracles, right, Myrna?
totally, yes. We keep each other and ourselves connected to this, um, the Course in Miracles, and that you and I are so, we're so familiar with the Course in Miracles at this point. Like you said, 34 years is a very long time. So still staying within the content of the Course in Miracles, trying to really live the Course in Miracles, and and that's in a way when you say we vacillate between the ego and spirit, going back and forth, ego, spirit, and it's a good thing because I think before the Course in Miracles, I was all ego,
Mm.
and not knowing that there was another way. So when things get me down, I always reach for the Holy Spirit's connection with me and get into that comfort zone. And that's what it is. And it works every single time. We know that there's a lifeline when we're feeling defeated, when we shouldn't be feeling defeated, but we're told stories by our own ego, which escalates those feelings and sometimes it causes sadness. Today's lesson, which is 232, I think that lesson is really to keep us away from fear. That's what it seems to me. But anyway, fear is.
Yes, fear is what we need to watch out for. I mean, I usually end this talk with the intro of A Course in Miracles, but I think I will begin the talk with the intro of A Course in Miracles as well. What A Course in Miracles says is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And what that means is the only thing that's real is the love. So when we are aligning our mind with the mind of God, we are loving everyone and everything, including ourself. A Course in Miracles cannot teach us the meaning of love because love is who and what we are. The only thing Course in Miracles can do is it can identify the blocks to love. So when the blocks to love arise in our mind, we can choose to release them. I personally think that's what this lifetime is all about. This lifetime is all about showing us our triggers, showing us the parts of our mind that are not aligned with love so we can release them and reconnect to our true nature, which is peace, love, joy, and happiness. My intro states, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. There is nothing to find in the world because there is no world. The external world is just a picture of an internal condition. We see in the world what we believe to be true. You know that quote, it says, well, when I see it, I'll believe it. It should be, when I believe it, I'll see it, because it's not about seeing it first. It's about believing it first. And so when we believe something on the inside, we find proof of what we believe in the external world, because again, it's like life is like a movie. We are the projector. So when we are not happy with what's on the screen, most people go to their external world and they try to change their external world, but that doesn't work. That's like going to the screen and trying to change what's on the screen. What we need to do is we need to go to the projector and change what's on the projector. So when we're not happy with what's occurring in our life, we can change our thoughts at any time. But the change doesn't come by changing the external. The change comes from changing the internal. So A Course in Miracles is teaching us how to live from the inside out. And again, I've known these intellectual truths for quite a number of years now, since we've both been studying Course in Miracles for about 34 years. But it really takes discipline to remember these truths throughout the course of our day, throughout the course of my day. So I agree. Lesson 232, be in my mind, my Father, through the day. So what is my Father? My Father is love. So it's about focusing on love throughout the day, focusing on love for others. For me lately, what I really need to focus on is love and forgiveness for myself, because until I can love and forgive myself, I cannot extend that love outwards. So that's what I've been focusing on lately, because a lot of guilt has been coming up for me lately. And I'm doing my best to give it to God so he can help me release it. And I pray and I meditate. But I do know a lot of old stuff is old fear, old pain points is coming up lately for healing purposes. That's what I have been experiencing.
Yes, the same thing with me, exactly that. These thoughts come into my head, something that happened 25, 30 years ago, something I did, something I said, something I could have done. So, I keep catching that. I keep catching those thoughts that are really, really taking precedence, over my mind sometimes. I think the idea, and why is it happening now? After all these years, and now it's coming up. I think maybe the ego fights harder and harder. The closer you move to the spiritual side of yourself, the ego pulls you back in. Doesn't want to let go. The ego will fight to the death to keep you there. So for me, I recognize that these thoughts are coming up, but when that happens, I try to nip it in the bud. And it happens a lot. My first marriage and the way I was with my husband and the way I hurt him, and these things are coming up. Nothing good is coming up in my past, only the things that were considered hurtful and bad. So I totally understand what you're saying. It's happening a lot lately with me too. And don't forget, you and I were also discussing a little bit a little while ago, the media doesn't help any, because once we get into that, the media, and my ego is telling me that unless the candidate of my choice wins the election, the whole country is going to fall apart. And it's, doesn't the country, don't people see this? Is it obvious? This is how, I am projecting, and there's certainly no love that's being extended. It's just fear, really. It's being projected. So, it's crazy. But at the same time, I try to reason when I listen to the news and side with the candidate of my choice, and fearing the opposite side. I say, well, maybe there's just a big shakeup that's happening now. And that's really what seems to make the most sense. There's a big shakeup. And so that there's nothing that's going to happen to the country. Nothing is going to happen to this world. Okay. When I say shakeup, it's a matter of once the dust settles, things will be better than ever before. So in looking at in terms of now being in the present, and I asked Jesus about this, these are the thoughts that come into my mind. This is nothing more than a shakeup. Don't think of anything more than that. And you are in a place of perfection right now, and you will stay there. And there's nothing that's going to change that. Except right now, the external seems to be tantamount, in our thoughts, because there's so much hype about it, and rightly so. The country is going through a tremendous change. The world is going through a change. We're part of that world. So you can look at it, from two different points of view, the ego or spirit. And spirit is really what seems to make the most sense. The world is not going to be, destroyed. There's not going to be another third world war. And at the same time, we seem to be involved in those news reports that seem to be coming up all the time. So
Yeah, the CNN and MSNBC hates Trump. Fox and Newsmax hate Biden. There is division in the world right now, in the United States right now. I guess I'm talking about the United States. I think I mentioned that last week I was out on the boat and there was a Trump rally at the marina, and there was a lot of flags praising Trump. I think there was even this one gentleman that had like a Trump outfit on. Everyone on the boat was pointing him out. And then I looked on this boat that was parked pretty close to us at the marina. And the boat had a big sign. One was pro-Trump and the other was anti-Biden. It said FUCK Biden. And that's just nasty, because there is nothing wrong with praising the nominee that you agree with or that you're backing. There's, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. But to bash the opponent is not of God. That's of the ego. So that is just nasty. And I think a lot of America is going there right now. I mean, I remember some of the talking points of the last election were extremely nasty, and maybe these are all egoic pain points that are coming up for healing. I mean, I have a story in my book about Donald Trump, And what happened was years ago, I must have been 30 years old, approximately, maybe in my 30s. I was living in New York City. I was modeling. And what happened was I did a photo shoot at Trump Tower. Donald Trump saw the pictures from the photo shoot. He thought I was attractive, so he asked my agent at that time for my phone number. So she asked me if it was okay to give Donald Trump my phone number. I thought that would be kind of exciting. I was a young woman and I said, sure. So she did. And for about a few months, I think he was calling me, and we just had a lot of phone conversations. And what I remember is he would never talk about himself. He would only ask questions about me. And I would always think to myself, why does this, I think he was on that show, that big television show at the time, I think. I'm like, why is this big
The
public figure?
Apprentice, the show was
The Apprentice, The Apprentice.
Right.
Like, why is this big public figure so interested in my little life, when he's like a public figure? But he would never let me ask anything about him. He only asked questions about me. So finally, we made a date to get together. He invited me over to Trump Tower. I spent all night, trying to look just perfect, just really putting myself together well. I remember I showed up at his apartment. I got picked up and escorted up to his room, and I think he might have kissed my hand, asked me if I wanted a glass of champagne. We spoke for about 10 minutes tops, and then he dismissed me, saying that he had a helicopter on the roof that was waiting to take him to the tennis tournament, the Forest Hills tennis tournament. And I was so insulted that he dismissed me after 10 minutes. I felt so rejected. I left. I never heard from him after that. And I would say for the next 10 years, I had so much resentment towards him for how he treated me. I found him to be very condescending, demeaning. Obviously, he wasn't interested in me when he saw me, I think. And I was just so insulted by that. But then as I started getting deeper into A Course in Miracles, I realized that my resentment towards Donald Trump was keeping me from God. Because when we resent anyone, it keeps us from God. So I worked on forgiveness towards Donald Trump. And the more I forgave him, the closer I felt my connection towards God. And I think I have forgiven him since then. I hold on to no grievances towards him. And that's not only true with him, that's true with anyone. When we hold on to grievances or resentment towards anyone, it keeps us from God, because that's of the ego. So a lot of times now in my morning meditation, I think of anyone that I have resentments towards. And there are a few lately that have been pushing my buttons. Some people at work, the nursing home that I quit that job a couple of months ago, but I still remember a couple of the incidents that happened to me that I don't think were fair. So I work on forgiveness towards them. My hairdresser, I'm not going to go into that story again. I work on forgiveness towards her and towards myself. So I think it's so important to do our best to release all grievances and all resentments, and to bring that back to politics. Whether if you're Republican, we can praise the Republican theory and the Republican nominee, But to hate the Democrats doesn't do any good. If you're a Democrat, you can praise the Democrat, theory and the Democratic philosophy and the Democratic nominee. You can praise them, but to hate the Republicans doesn't do any good. To hate anyone or anything is not of God, and it lowers our vibratory frequency. Right, Myrna?
I think the news plays a big part of that. It teaches you to hate. That's the problem. If you're stuck to the news, and that's why it's not a good idea to watch the news. And to tell you the truth, from my point of view, I never used to watch the news. I used to never like to watch anything about politics because I didn't like the message. And now, I'm reverting. I'm now starting to become very versed on what the news is and very interested. But at the same time, I see the hatred that goes on. That's really what it is, because it's nothing but bashing, and it goes back and forth. I like the story you told about Trump. That's him. I have a story too, really. Indirectly, Ivanka Trump. I have a story about her. And at the time, I had my store in New York, and the New York Observer, did a beautiful, very nice write-up, a front page write-up about my store with beautiful pictures. I said, my God, who is this? So I realized that it was Jared Kushner, who was Ivanka Trump's fiance. They were newly engaged, who owned the Observer. I said, let me see if I can get a little publicity. In other words, I want to do something nice. So I knew that at the time, Ivanka Trump had a jewelry store on Madison Avenue. So I went into my cabinet, and there was a beautiful pair of Chanel earrings that were never worn. And I bought those earrings, deciding to give them to her. And I wrote a lovely note that thank you. I, wanted her fiance did a wonderful job allowing his magazine to write my business up, and I just wanted to thank you, and I left the earrings for her. The reason I tell this story is because I got a lovely note, a letter back from her thanking me, and really it was the sweetest letter, really. And I remember thinking that he did such a nice job with her, with his children. And I think that today, no matter what you might say about him, his children are very nice children. They never did anything wrong. He's a good father. He's been a good father to all of them. And I in that respect, I see the humanity in him, the goodness in him. I just do. I just, I think he's probably the only person that could do the job. That's how I feel. But in any respect, that's just my feeling. And of course, people agree with me, and the people who don't, it doesn't really matter. So that's, that's my feeling about all of this. Recognizing too, that as I said before, yes, it's easy to feel hatred, and hatred promotes fear, and fear keeps us away from love. And the Course in Miracles tells us there are only two places you can be in, either fear or love. So I think we're constantly fighting for that love connection, and it'd be wonderful to stay in that connection all the time. It's easy when you are constantly in that frequency, but when we go off that frequency, the ego has its way and allows itself to really intrude on our peace, and then we're in the soup again. And I think that's probably why a lot of this old stuff perhaps is coming up for both of us, for you and me, because we're not really allowing, as Jesus in the Course in Miracles says, and you've mentioned that we allow ourselves too much mind wandering. And that's the problem. So when I excel, and I think that I excel, is that when those thoughts come up, I recognize them for what they are, and I'll jump into the arms of Jesus, or the thoughts of the Holy Spirit, or the greatness of God. It's all there for me. The beauty of it is all there for me. So I don't know. Do you think so, Susan, that,
I
that we allow
do. I
ourselves
do.
that?
We have so much freedom in this earthly
Yes.
classroom.
Yes.
We can focus on whatever we want. It's like that analogy, focusing on the glass half empty or half full.
Yes. Yes.
We can focus on everything that we don't have, or we can focus on everything that we do have. We can focus on our disconnection to God, or we can focus on our connection to God. I mean, well, A Course in Miracles is telling us that we can't really disconnect from God. God is always with us, but we can choose to forget how very much He loves us. I mean, uh, to be completely transparent, last night before I went into bed, a lot of guilt and self-hatred came up for me, and I don't know why I went into the dynamics of the ego so deeply. I don't know why, but I just was feeling very, very disconnected last night when I was going to bed. Just a lot of like self-condemnation was coming up intensely. I was tired yesterday because I hadn't slept that well. But it's like all that guilt and resentment and self-criticism, was just really overwhelming. And I hadn't really gone that deeply into negativity for quite some time. And then I slept. I actually slept well, believe it or not. I slept about 9 hours. And when I got up this morning, I was kind of neutral. But then I was rested, and I chose to go directly into the Course in Miracles lesson of the day, lesson 232. Be in my mind, my Father, through the day. I listened to quite a few YouTube versions of that lesson. And then I went into a 30-minute meditation, focusing on that lesson. Then I had my morning run, and throughout my morning run, I focused on my that meditation, and I really, and then I started on the treadmill listening to a new Audible, A Course in Mysticism and Miracles by John Mundy. So after a morning of spiritual focus, I managed to replug myself into the God socket. But I guess part of the reason I'm bringing this up is within the course of, let's say, a 24-hour span, on one end, I was deeply into the egoic detachment from God, detachment from the God socket. And then through focus, I managed to replug myself into the God socket. So it's amazing how much choice we have in this earthly classroom, because when I was focused on the ego, when I was focused on negativity, it was just so anxiety provoking. And when I was focused on God and peace and love and joy and happiness, it was so empowering. So we really do have so much free choice, and I guess one thought that is very I don't know, I guess peaceful or very encouraging. I mean, I'm never alone. I mean, everyone else has the same struggles and the same choices that I do. We're all trying to find our way back to heaven. So, A Course in Miracles is giving us the tools that we need in order to get there. I mean, A Course in Miracles is very clear that it is not the only path to God. It is but one clear path to God. But when you really focus on what A Course in Miracles is telling you, I mean, it just brings so much peace and joy to our minds. A Course in Miracles is simple. The truth is so simple. I mean, the answer to every single question is love. You know, it's not easy because it's not what the world teaches. We just spoke about politics. You know, you turn on the news, there's so much division, there's so many grievances, there's so much animosity, you know. I mean, but that is not who we are. In order to bring peace to our minds and peace to our hearts, we need to focus on the truth of who we are, and who we are is love. I mean, here in lesson 232, okay, be in my mind, my Father, through the day. My Father, God, love. Be in my mind, my Father, when I wake, and shine on me throughout the day today. Let every minute be a time in which I dwell with you. And let me not forget my hourly thanksgiving that you have remained with me and always will be there to hear my call to you and answer me. As evening comes, let all my thoughts be still of you and of your love. And let me sleep sure of my safety, certain of your care, and happily aware I am your son. I mean, we can forget about our connection to God, but we do not have the power to get away from him, because he is who we are. We can never connect from him completely, because we are him. That's like saying, okay, you know, I'm going to just cut myself off and get rid of my head. Well, if I do that, I'm going to die. The same is true with God. We can't cut ourselves off from God because it's impossible. It's impossible, because we are him. He A Course in Miracles says he needs us as much as we need him. His autonomy is incomplete without us. You know, we can forget about him. We can forget about his love, but we cannot disconnect from him completely. That's impossible. Right, Myrna?
Yeah, and that's the best news we could possibly have. I mean, fact is that we can't disconnect from love, because that's exactly where we are. That's what we're made of. Yes, and I believe that the reason that God needs us, wants us with him, and uh, doesn't is trying to heal the separation. Let's put it that way. The separation, the Course in Miracles is attempting to heal the separation, because, just like a puzzle, if it's missing a piece of one piece of a puzzle is missing, it's not good. It's, you need the whole, you need all of its parts. That's how I look at God wanting to have his, his entire collection, okay, of all his, his souls that connect to him. He wants that, understanding that, and that's how I look at it. If you eat a dish, or you have a recipe, if one part of that recipe is missing, it doesn't taste the same. And so that's how I see God wanting, this wholeness, and he wants all of his parts back, including, that's where, we are, the ego is the missing part. That is what keeps us away from the connection to God. And if we're not connected to God, we don't know that we are a part of him. How can we feel a part of him if we focus on the fear? God is not fear. God is anything but. God is only love. And because God is only love, love can't really know what fear is. It can understand that there's, it's not a part of the immense love, okay, that we have that we are, we just, like you say, you know, it's so hard to put it into words. I can only feel that love. I can only recognize that I feel that way when I'm feeling it. And why pull myself away from it? You know, it makes no sense. And yet we do. We do because we're still attached to the part of us that is not of God, because we made that part, the ego. The ego came from the separation that we are solely responsible for. And I think because we made the ego and we're responsible for it, where it can only come from us. The disconnect from the ego to God, to spirit, the spirit of God, the grace of God, can only come from ourselves, and we have to make that choice. It's a daily choice. It's a moment by moment choice, really, because we can be happy one minute thinking love, happiness, joy, and at the next moment we're now, like you say, flooded with thoughts of anything other than love, fear. So again, you know, we look into to a way of connecting and staying connected for as long as we can, and getting back into it when we're disconnected from it. And you know, you read a beautiful prayer on lesson 232, and the very last paragraph says, the prayer itself was beautiful when you read it. Be in my mind, my Father, through the day. The last paragraph is not part of the prayer, but the words say, this is as every day should be. Today, practice the end of fear. Have faith in him who is your Father. Trust all things to him. Let him reveal all things to you, and be you undismayed, because you are his son. So this really says it all in this one paragraph. Today's the end of fear. Wouldn't it be nice if today was completely the end of fear? I like to think that, okay, let today be that day. Let that moment of aha, you know, that stay with me, and not vacillate away from it. So, but it takes work and it takes dedication.
It does. It does. What is fear? False evidence appearing real. Fear is an illusion. We go into fear when we block God's love. And everyone has experienced that. Jesus has experienced that. Buddha has experienced that. All the enlightened masters have experienced that. But they learned that fear is not real. They learned that fear is an illusion. You know, go to the Wizard of Oz analogy. I mean, the Wicked Witch was analogous, I believe, to the ego. And Dorothy was so scared of her in the land of Oz. However, you know, when she was in the tower of the Wicked Witch and she was just so scared, she accidentally threw water on the Wicked Witch, and the Wicked Witch just evaporated. And then all the Wicked Witch's faithful followers applauded Dorothy. They were so happy that their evil queen was no longer alive. And I mean, you think of the ego in that way. We're so scared of our ego, you know, we're so scared of our fear. But A Course in Miracles is saying, look at your fear, look at your darkness, because only by bringing the darkness to the surface can we heal it. By only giving our pain points to God can he take them from us. It's because when we push the darkness down and we keep it in our unconscious mind, then it has power over our lives, but once we have the courage to look at the pain points that are within our unconscious mind and give them to the Holy Spirit, then we actually can heal them. I was listening again very intently to one of John Mundy's books, A Course in Mysticism and Miracles, and he pointed out quite a few facts that I know to be true, but I really liked hearing him say it. He was talking about, when A Course in Miracles, I believe it was written between 1965 and 1974. Now, this was after Freudian psychology. This was after Sigmund Freud's research on psychology, because there's a lot of that involved in A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is very psychologically astute. So Freud did not refer to the ego in the exact same way as A Course in Miracles refers to the ego. However, there are similarities. And what is I've been to numerous, psychologists in this lifetime. And basically what we did is we took a look at certain painful times in my childhood and we brought them to the surface. So and that's also what EMDR therapy is all about. It's bringing the pain points of the past, to the surface so you can actually own the pain, but it's not about staying in the pain, because if we stay in the pain, then we start playing the blame game. We start blaming, those people from the past. We start blaming our parents for what they did to us. And that's not where healing is. Healing is about owning the pain. So bringing the pain points from our unconscious mind to the surface. But then by taking a look at it, by owning it, then we can forgive. Forgiveness is how we get our power, but we have to bring those pain points up in order to forgive our past and in order to release our past. Like A Course in Miracles is very clear that our way to heaven is through forgiveness, and all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, because God has but one son and we are all part of the sonship. So when I can truly forgive my father for everything that happened in the past, I'm forgiving me. When I can truly forgive my mother for everything that happened in the past, I'm forgiving me. All forgiveness is self-forgiveness. And I even think recent triggers that I've experienced, it all has to do with past triggers that have never been resolved. Because I think that the universe is designed for our healing. So when something in our unconscious mind has not been healed, triggers occur in our life, but it's not to punish us, it's to heal us. It's every time something is coming to the surface, it's for healing purposes. And again, my recent incidents at the nursing home, my recent incidents with my hairstylist, this is all bringing past pain points to the surface so that I can heal and I can forgive, because this classroom is designed to bring us home to heaven. Right, Myrna?
It's all about forgiveness. That's really what it is. It's because forgiveness, it weighs us down. It's a weight. And and that's again, that's ego, that's fear, that's ego, bringing the fear that we feel, and bringing past grievances or hatred up again is fear, really. And it's so, and the ego has absolutely no power whatsoever. Just as you mentioned, The Wizard of Oz, where she disintegrated the witch just with a little bit of water. That movie is The Course in Miracles when you think about it, because that's the ego. It disintegrates with just a little bit of, just step on it like a bug under your foot. That's really all it is. The ego, it has no more power than that, but it only has as much power as we give it. It's like giving power to a bully. We've all been bullied, right? I mean, that's I have a very good bully story. When I was in grade school, there was this girl that was constantly bullying me, and I was afraid of her. I was afraid of her, and I never fought back. And I would say all through the entire school year, okay, she bullied me. We'd go a couple of, weeks or so, and then it would start in again. And I would try to be her friend, and it would start in again. And finally, at the end of the school year, she bullied me one last time, and I fought back, and I fought back with everything I had, okay? And and I believe me, she knew she was in a fight. Yeah, I got scratched and my hair was pulled and whatnot the same way, but she also knew she was in a fight. And you know what? She never touched me again after that. But my only question was, and it still is, what took me so long? What took me so long to fight back? Took me, I went through all this turmoil and all this torment, and so it's the same thing. When we think about it, when these fears come up, what takes us so long to recognize them for what they are and to just obliterate them? That's all it takes. I think I was in a fight with this girl for about maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And she was the first one to relent. She walked away. I wasn't going to give in. At that point, there was so much adrenaline coming out of me, okay, because of what she'd been doing to me, that that's 2 minutes. That's all it took, and yet I suffered for almost well, I say the whole school year, and it was a good lesson for me. It really was, because it taught me a lesson I needed to learn, and so does the Course in Miracles. So when my ego gives me this nonsense, this crap about the fact that I'm not good enough, and that I should repent for my sins and all that crap, I'm able to see it for what it is, and just understand it. That's not me. It's not who I am, and so that's the understanding that I've come to recognize and come to terms with, just as you have.
It says here, the escape from darkness involves two stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This step usually entails fear. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. This step brings escape from fear. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. That's probably my favorite, one of my favorite paragraphs in the whole book, because to me, that's all about bringing our pain points to the surface so God can take them from us. I think we've had just lifetimes of building up these pain points in our unconscious mind. And to release them, all we need to do is recognize them, give them to the Holy Spirit, and forgive ourselves. It's never about forgiving the other person. It's always about forgiving ourselves, because that's the way to heaven. The way to heaven is total and complete forgiveness. And it's possible. It's possible to reach enlightenment in this lifetime. I mean, the truth is we all are already enlightened. We just need to remember that, you know. in the Bible or in A Course in Miracles, it says, many are called, but few are chosen, which means everyone is called, but few choose to listen. I mean, we're all called to awaken. We're all called to love totally and completely and unconditionally, but we get so used to the egoic constraints of the world. I know for myself, I mean, there's certain things that I pride myself on. I guess I pride myself on keeping the weight of the scale to a certain number. I pride myself on being a hard worker, on having a good job and working hard. I pride myself on I guess my discipline. I feel like I'm a pretty disciplined person, but God doesn't care about any of that stuff. I mean, God can't even see my body. All God can see is the desires of my heart. And when I truly desire to connect with him, I mean, he's waiting for me with open arms. He's waiting, for my love and to remember who I am. Basically, what I need to do is I just need to love my brother. Is I need to start giving the love that I want to feel. So when we feel disconnected in any way, a good way to break the disconnection and reconnect is just to start loving our brother. Because when we extend love to our brother, we remember how much love we have within us to give. I mean, that's what a miracle is, I mean, what a miracle is when we extend God's love to our brother. I mean, Jesus tells us we don't have to plan the miracles out ourselves. Imagine how interesting that would be if we started trying to plan the miracles out ourselves. Then we're going to sabotage the miracles if we try to plan them. Basically, Jesus tells us that we will be in the right place at the right time, but to focus on love, to focus on compassion, we don't have to worry about what to say or what to do. All we need to do is love, and God will set the stage for a miracle for us. I mean, that was the paragraph I used to start each talk with. That is the paragraph from the beginning of A Course in Miracles, chapter 2. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I mean, you can use that for time, of day. It doesn't matter what you say. It's, are you coming from love or are you coming from fear? And if you're coming from love, that is a miracle. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. So God is always with us. We don't have to worry about what to say. We don't have to worry about what to do. The only thing we need to do is we need to surrender to this power that is greater than ourselves, but that we are a part of. And we need to release control and allow him to come into our minds. And we can do that at any time we choose. It's the power of love. But when we align ourselves with this power of love, we basically are connecting with our right mind. We are connecting with our true self. And that state of mind is available to us at each and every moment, Yeah,
you mentioned, instant, it can happen in an instant, that we finally get it, that one instant. And I was just looking and I see lesson 182, I will be still an instant and go home. So when you think about it, if all it takes is an instant, that instant is going to come. I mean, when that instant comes that we are completely devoid of the ego, it will be in an instant. Think about that. You know, because we live from instant to instant, second to second. That instant will come. It just depends on us when it comes. So, you know, I think about it that way sometimes. I'm waiting for the instant, and it's all it really will take to.
That instant is here. That instant is now. That's like the affirmation that I say to myself at times. What if everything is just perfect right here, right now? What if everything in your life is just perfect right here, right now? Because God is here. God is now. God is not in the past. God is not in the future. I mean, there is no past. There is no future. I mean, there is now. And when I can remember how much love is available to me right here, right now, that's how I connect to the truth of who I am. That's how I align myself with the power of love. Just being fully present right here, right now, and loving myself totally and completely, not for anything that I do in the world, but just for who I am. And I notice, as Ken Wapnick said, I mean, the big piece of the path to enlightenment is just kindness. It's so simple. It's be kind. And I notice when I am kind to people, just like for simple things. I mean, I was taking a package to UPS, and I had two boxes that I had to carry inside the door, and in order to open the door you had to actually pull the door open, but I couldn't actually pull the door and hold the box at the same time. And then there was this man that I didn't know in the car right next to me, and he was so kind, and he asked if he could help me, and he took the boxes from my car into the UPS store, and I thanked him graciously. And you just, I mean, to connect with that energy of kindness is so beautiful. That's how we connect to God's energy, is simply to be kind. And it's in simple little things. And another thing happened yesterday at the grocery store. There was a man in front of me in the grocery line, and then he stepped out of line because he forgot to get something, and then he came back to the line and he started to go behind me. I said, "Oh no, you can go in front of me." And he smiled and he said thank you. And it's these simple little acts of kindness when we extend love to our brother. I mean, that's when we remember how much love we have within to give. It doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be great acts, but it can also be simple acts. Anytime we come from love, that's a miracle. I think it says in the list, there is no difficulty in miracles. One is not harder than another. Anything that comes from love is a miracle. And when we extend miracles to our brother, we remember who we are.
Yeah, it's those moments of kindness that are wonderful, aren't they? To experience somebody helping you with, get it with your packages. I love those experiences. That really happen a lot. Somebody will smile and hold the door for me. Or I could be driving along and somebody wants to get into the lane, and I'll stop and and they wave. It's just that connection, that instant connection. That's wonderful. Really, you just described them beautifully, because I feel them also all the time, and that lightens you up. It really does. It's a miracle. Anytime you get that feeling of enlightenment, it's a miracle. So I like that analogy.
Thank you. And they're always there. I mean, they're always there. We just have to be open to the truth of who and what we are. you know? So because we don't know how much love we have within us until we give it away. So, and children, I think children, when we early on in our lives, they're very aware of the innocence and the beauty of their creator, and they don't experience guilt, when they make a mistake. They just don't experience guilt. Like if they cry too long, or if they they pee in the wrong place, or if they make a mistake, I mean, they don't hold on to guilt. They're just so innocent. And to, again, in my morning run, another affirmation that I started saying was, I embody the essence of innocence. It's so powerful to just embody the innocence, because guilt is of the ego, innocence is of God. Unforgiveness is of the ego, forgiveness is of God. So I'm so grateful for A Course in Miracles. I am so grateful for you, Myrna. Thank you so much for being here with me. I love our conversations. And it is now 4 o'clock. So I will end with the introduction of A Course in Miracles. I think I began with this as well. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And what that means is the only thing that's real is the love. Thank God for that. And thank you so much. I love you. And I look forward to seeing you next Monday.
Yep.
And I
Same
will
here.
now, thank you. And
Thank you.
I will now return the microphone to Len.
Thank you so much, Susan and Myrna. So grateful to have you guys both on a Monday afternoon. And I'm having a wonderful day so far. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to tune in Tuesday morning.
Yeah, we'll be here tomorrow for sure.
Okay. I'll see you.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.